Well, last year, if I had disagreements with the Locked On A's host, it would have been because I was having a psychotic episode. But now we're bringing in Booney and we're doing a crossover.
You are Locked On MLB Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to a Locked On MLB, Locked On A's crossover. This is the podcast we talk about Major League Baseball or the A's, wherever they're playing these days, all season long. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. Now, last summer, this would be a crossover. I hosted both shows, but then I regained my sanity. And we're bringing in the host with the most, who took over the chair that I kept warm all year long. It's Booney. Sully and Booney together again. How you doing, buddy?
Sully, how are you, sir?
I'm
Good to see you.
right.
Yeah.
Good to see you too. Good.
Good.
Good to see you too. Happy New Year. Are we still allowed to say that?
You as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. You
Absolutely.
can. We haven't had one yet. So
I know. Well, January was 70 days long, and February apparently is going to be over in an hour. So this year's been a tad strange. Let's get rid of some business here. Follow us at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter or whatever they're calling it now, and on the Instagrams. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Once every 48 years, I'm on something called Blue Sky, where I say hello. But the best way to get a hold of me is to go right down here into the YouTubes, where I answer your questions and you can answer my trivia questions. Booney, where can they follow you?
Probably best they don't know, but Locked On A's. Locked On A's if they want to follow. LOCKEDONAS as on X, or as you would say it, Sully, whatever you want to call it these days.
Yep. There you go. Let's go talk about who answered the trivia question. The trivia question was about, because we talked about the A's and the Tampa Bay Rays in the last show, and I talked about the inaugural year for the Rays. They're called the Devil Rays, was 1998, and they had two future Hall of Famers on that roster. Which one of those two Hall of Famers hit the first ever home run in Tampa Bay Rays history? Do you know who it was? First of all, do you know who the two Hall of Famers were?
I do not.
The two Hall of Famers were Fred McGriff and
Okay.
Wade Boggs. One of those two hit the first home run in Tampa Bay Devil Rays history. Who was it, Booney?
I would guess Fred McGriff, but I have a feeling it's going to be Wade Boggs.
It's Wade Boggs, and Big John 08865 got it right. He got the trivia question right. So good job, Big John. Wade Boggs did indeed hit the first home run in Tampa Bay Devil Rays history. He got another big home run in that team's history. His 3,000th hit was a home run. And he became the first person to get his 3,000th hit with a home run. And he celebrated like it was VJ Day. And do you want? I don't blame him. Who am I to tell Wade Boggs how to celebrate his 3,000th hit? I am 3,000 hits shy of my 3,000th hit.
Me and you both.
But Booney, it's good to have you back. For those of you who don't know, last summer when the great Jason Burke and several other of the hosts of Locked On A's could not fill the void, and there was let's just say it was an interesting year for the Oakland A's, mainly for what was happening behind the scenes.
Yeah.
I said, hey, we can't have this channel be open. I'll do it for a week or so until you find a new host. And I proceeded to do it for the entire season, including doing my last episode, which included a trip to the last game ever at the Oakland Coliseum. But Booney has stepped in and is doing a fantastic job. For those of you that haven't subscribed to him, go check out what he's doing, how he's keeping the lights on. As I hinted at, we don't always agree.
No,
you and I don't always agree, but you should never always agree with anybody.
Right.
If two people are always saying the same thing, only one of them's thinking.
Sure.
So I wanted to get you on because I had on my show yesterday, I talked about my skepticism and my cynicism regarding the A's stadium situation, where they can't even draw enough parking spaces. They're supposed to be putting a shovel to the dirt in the next couple of months here. You all tell the Locked On MLB fans what your show, if no one remembers the McLaughlin group from the 80s where people would just yell at each other a lot, or it was more like Pardon the Interruption.
Yeah.
Just tell people a little bit of what happened in yesterday's show for you, which prompted this need for a crossover.
Yesterday's show was the so I think with the big thing with Locked On A's, and I think right now, obviously, you have a lot of angry A's fans out there, and rightfully so, for a lot that's been going on. A lot of what's been going on and the narrative that's been stirred up has been by the local media, podcasters, beat writers, etc. And this goes back all the way through their history. Now, I bought into this narrative and believed it. But when you really dig into it, there are a lot of holes in that narrative. There are a lot of things within the story that should be told that are not told. And no matter what opinion you have with regard to the situation, it is up to the viewer to interpret the story how they feel and make their own judgment to it. And that's what I'm trying to get through, is not necessarily taking one side or another. John Fisher's right, the A's fans are wrong. No, let's get the story out in front of the individual and let them decide what their opinion is. The issue you had that you talked about, I believe, in yesterday's show was on parking, correct?
Yes.
So here's what you got on parking. In 2017, the Raiders went through the exact same thing. They had 2,300 parking spaces, and they needed 18,000 in order to satisfy what the county wanted. The A's are going through the exact same thing right now. How the Raiders solved it back in 2017, 2018 is they purchased land to acquire several parking sites. That cost the Raiders back then approximately, it could have been, I believe, between $30 and $40 million. And a portion of those fans were shuttled into the stadium. The A's have applied for a waiver with the county in order to, waive that requirement of the minimum parking requirements. It's a smart business decision for them to do so. I don't believe the waiver will be granted. And if it is not granted, they are going to go through the same situation as the Raiders, purchase off-site parking in order to do that. That's going to cost, again, depending on what costs are right now, where they find the spots, etc. Let's call it $50 million. All said and done, I think the stadium, with inflation, with tariffs, with where we're at right now, is going to be approximately $2 billion. With regard to if the A's have the money, yes, absolutely, no question about it. I have talked on multiple occasions about an S block, a securities-backed line of credit, all individuals like John Fisher have in order to pay for these type of projects. Jerry Jones did it with the stadium in Texas. Steve Ballmer did it with the purchase of the Clippers, and Elon Musk did it with the purchase of Twitter. It may not exactly be an S block, but it is a similar financial instrument where you are borrowing against your own funds in order to pay for the team, the stadium, whatever it may be. Point being is, if Vegas does not happen, it is because Fisher does not want it to happen. It is because he pulls out for whatever reason it may be. We are seeing inflation. We are seeing tariffs. John Fisher is a huge Republican donor. He has the inside of the insides of exactly what's going on. I would not be surprised if ground does not break until June. I see a delay in that happening, which is going to cause a big ruckus and so forth. And I don't think John Fisher really cares what the ruckus is. I heard you talk before in your show with regard to an escrow account. That is just a bad financial move if he decides to do that, because you're now moving money that's earning zero into an escrow account. And again, some escrow accounts do earn very, very little money, but it is nothing compared to what he is currently earning. So he has there. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. Vegas may not happen, but there's no evidence that it's not going to happen. It's actually on the contrary. There's more evidence that it will happen versus it not happening. But you could be right.
Well, when we get back, I'm going to ask for some of that evidence that I must just not be seeing right now. But there is evidence that wonderful pistachios is great. It's both delicious, nutritious. It's got a great source of protein. You got a snack with wonderful pistachios. Look at it's wonderful pistachios are one of the highest protein nuts. That's a sentence I never thought I'd say, but I'm telling you, each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you 10% of your daily value. Boom, 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 up to 100%. And they're packed with fiber, better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. Now, I like the no shells variety. It's a perfect grab and go snack. I'm a teacher during the day. I'm not going to sit down and have a full course meal, but sometimes you need that little boom to get you through the day. And I don't want it to be some sort of nasty energy drink. I want it to be something that's good and it's natural. No shells, wonderful pistachio are the great grab and go. And look at they pack such a punch. And whether you're running between meetings, going to class, or getting ready to meet with Booney to talk about the A situation, they are the snack that works as hard as you do. And I know you work hard. So get snacking and get cracking with a snack that's a protein punch. They got to put that to music. Get snacking, get cracking with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. What is it? Wonderful pistachio. The taste is in the name. All right, Booney. I have some problems with some of the things that you're saying. And by the way,
Okay.
I'm not going to get political or anything like that because we should we should just assume that if you're a super rich dude who owns big teams, if you have a billion in your available balance, yeah, I have an idea where you're going to be leaning politically these days. That's just how it is, you know. And that's why don't be stunned when that happens, and don't be stunned when artists tend to lean left. If you go by that, if you just go by that assumption, you'll be a lot happier in life these days. Now, the fact that we're still talking about can they get a waiver to do this? Can they get land to do that? When I thought we should be grabbing a shovel and start digging in the dirt, like it's we're approaching the first quarter of the year being in a rearview mirror, and we're talking about, well, maybe they can get a waiver to do something for parking spots. That's one of those things where I wonder, well, what else are we not hearing at this point? And if they don't get it, what are they doing? And I do think a football stadium is different than a baseball stadium. A football stadium is an event where people tend to come with their cars, but it's a once a week thing. This is a stadium that supposedly is going to be playing to big crowds 3 or 4 times a week, or sometimes more. Um, the parking situation for something like that, when there's not, several thousand shy, is is alarming. Here's the bigger picture for me. This sounds really familiar for literally decades. And I pointed out, I think one of the times I have a book that I have since 1980 when I was 8 years old, where they refer to the A's as just the A's because they weren't sure at the time of printing if they were going to be playing in Denver or Oakland that year. And the talk then was about the stadium that they're trying to build. That was in 1980 when Jimmy Carter was president. Okay. My whole life, my whole conscious life as a fan, the A's have been fighting for a stadium. And I've seen beautiful renderings. San Jose, Fremont, Jack London Square, Mills College in the what was it, that they were going to build in the Coliseum parking lot. What was what's
East
the one
Oakland.
that they
There
was it?
was East Oakland. There was
East
Fremont. There
Oakland,
was
but where's the one that was by the docks? What was that one?
Howard Terminal.
Howard Terminal, thank you. There are so many they just blended together in my head for a while. And each one of those had great momentum behind them. Each one of those had beautiful drawings behind them, and each one of them fell apart. And I I do not trust the Fishers. I don't. I don't think they've been forthwith in a lot of things. And this is coming from, yes, I hosted Locked On A's, but I didn't grow up an A's fan. I didn't grow up on the East Bay. When I went to the 88 ALCS, I was rooting for the Red Sox. This isn't just me being like, oh, green and gold are coming out of here and I worship at the altar of Sal Bando. That this is when you have a situation where things fall apart like as they have been doing, they've not been forthwith this whole time. The only reason they're signing players now is to avoid legal problems. This is a self-inflicted wound that they're playing in Sacramento because they had to change their stadium situation in order to get luxury tax money that they'd been pocketing. There's no the situation going on in Tampa is Mother Nature pulling the top of the
Agreed.
Tropicana field like a
Yeah.
sardine can. This is entirely on the Fishers. And so forgive me if I'm not they haven't earned my benefit of the doubt. And when I'm seeing things like they're not dotting their I's and crossing their T's, and they're supposed to be building soon. Um, it they haven't earned the respect, in my opinion, to have me say, "Oh, you know what? It's going to work out." Because the Raiders made more sense moving to Las Vegas. Las Vegas makes more sense for a football team than it does a baseball team.
Why?
And I don't think that when we're seeing how many times we have to see renderings and how people's like, yeah, that as a teacher, I would write "see me" afterwards instead of "good job, start building." And forgive me when I keep hearing it's going to be delayed, it'll be delayed a few more months. It'll be a few more months. Um, I do believe at one point Fisher will say, "To heck with this," and dump it off to the fellow from the Kings, and they're going to stay in Sacramento. I do. I've seen nothing that makes me believe that won't happen. That's just my take.
Let me ask you a question. Do you want to see Fisher fail?
No, and I've said on the podcast, I've said on the show, if they move to Las Vegas, I want it to be an unqualified success.
But they're not there yet for sure. Do you
No,
deep down
they're
do you want
nowhere
to see
near
them?
it.
Do you want to see them go to Vegas? Do you want to see that
No,
project succeed?
no. Let me. I do. I've been for years. I've been saying Las Vegas is a terrible market. I've no one has ever shown me why it's a Venn diagram of a terrible market. If you had told me they're moving to Nashville, and when they had their AAA team in Nashville, I would have said it would be a shame to lose them in Oakland, but I get it. No one's ever been able to explain to me why. I mean, Las Vegas would probably make maybe my top 10 as terms of a market to put a baseball team, nowhere near the top 5. Nowhere near. And the Venn diagram of things of the population is transient. There's no loyalty to the team. The stadium is away from everything else. I'm going to go on a limb and say there's other tourist attractions there. Uh, there's not going to be any walk up to the A's, especially where it's located. I think there's if you wanted to say you were going to put a team in Charlotte, a team in Nashville, a team in hell, I'd say Austin or even Portland. I could easily name 4 or 5 cities that make a hell of a lot more sense than Las Vegas. Am I rooting for the A's to fail? Of course not. I want all 30. I want the Rays to work wherever they wind up. I want the A's to work wherever they wind up. I don't like the Fishers, but I'm sure I wouldn't like most Major League Baseball owners. You know, I want them to succeed wherever they land, much like I want my kids that I teach to all pass. But when I see them making mistakes or doing things that are going to keep them from failing, I'm not going to just say, well, let them fail. But no, I don't. And I've said over and over again, I want all 30 teams to be in the right place with a solid fan base succeeding. I want them to stay in Oakland. That ship has sailed. That ship has absolutely sailed. So there's any talk of wanting to play there is just you're a Brooklyn fan circa 1959 saying the Dodgers are coming back. That's not going to happen. If they stay in Sacramento with the Fishers owning them, I want them to be a huge success. If they end up in Las Vegas, I want them to be a huge success. This team has been a homeless vagabond humming Woody Guthrie tunes ever since Connie Mack's kids, propped him up in a baseball version of Weekend at Bernie's, and kept him as the manager the last 20 years, which he should not have been, which essentially crumbled the team in Philadelphia, and they went off to Kansas City and God knows where else. The Phillies should have been the team to move, not the A's. But since the Mac kids made that decision, the A's have been homeless, wandering. They've been like Moses wandering around the desert. And so I would love to see them find a permanent, forever home. And if that's Vegas, fine. I just don't think, if someone says we're going to put a team on a raft floating off the coast of Melbourne, Florida, I don't think that would succeed either, but I hope it would.
They are not scheduled to put shovels in the ground till between April and June. That's the planning. So what other evidence do you have
2
that
months away, and they're still looking, like, well, maybe we could have a parking lot.
but that's the
2
same
months.
timeline the Raiders were. I mean, we're talking about a minor situation as far as just buying land. I mean, that's not going to hold up breaking ground.
Sorry, I thought you said a minor situation like buying land. What land are they buying up there?
You're telling me there's not vacant land where they can develop into a parking lot in order to get 7,000 parking spots?
I don't know. Is there? And why didn't they buy it?
Absolutely, there is. The Raiders had no issues finding it. Is it going to be a
Because
financial
they wanted
burden?
them there.
What's that?
They wanted an NFL team there.
But what's that have to do with anything, though? Still, the issue is parking, right? That's the issue that's being held
That's
up.
the one we know about. That's the one I don't know why the Fishers have earned zero trust from me. I don't know why they have zero trust from
That's fair enough. So from the other,
this is what we know.
From the
and we're
other
still
perspective,
saying, well, maybe there's another piece of land. Isn't that something that we should know? 2 months is zero amount of time.
Okay,
it might as well be tomorrow. So where are they
first of
buying
all,
that land?
I 100% agree with you in your narrative with regard to public funding for a stadium. Okay, but
Yes.
With that being said, the public is not entitled to know anything with regard to Fisher's finances, when something is going to happen.
Scrap.
But they're
and
not,
you
though,
know
Sully.
it. And you know it. No.
Okay,
That is
as far as common courtesy and as far as what's supposed to be done, sure.
Then pull every dime. Pull every dime of public money. If they're going to be playing games with it,
I'm not
just say
disagreeing with you on that. I'm not disagreeing with you on that, Sully. But the bottom line is they
should be disclosing every single penny that's being spent right there.
According to what?
If they want to be spending literally hundreds of millions of dollars that could be spent on literally anything else.
That's
you're
the common
saying,
sense.
You know what?
That is the common sense.
They owe them they shouldn't say, hey, I bought a toothpick without disclosing it.
They don't have to, do they?
They should, especially if it's someone who we know is dishonest and is a con artist.
Now we're talking about two separate things. We're talking about morally and we're talking about lawfully. Okay, so we're talking about two separate types of things. I agree with you when we're talking about morally. I'm not disagreeing with you, but we have to talk. That's a set. We have to put our feelings aside.
No, we're not. No, we're not. Here's why. Who's paying for that? Who's going to pay for this stuff? What? Both? No way.
Disagree.
You're 100% wrong. Whatever money they've already put in, if they ask for this much more, then say, guess what? We could build something. We can build a new pirate ship here or something like that. What are you talking about? That they're saying, suddenly we got to build this. You got to get more public money in here. The Fishers, whatever is above the current public money, every single dime has to come from the Fishers.
Correct. 100%.
Yes. And if that means buying more land, then guess what? Guess what, Johnny boy? You got blue jean money. Go buy it.
Sure. That's what he intends to do.
Because you're also using public money.
They're using public money for the stadium, right? The $385 million. Okay. Yeah. The rest of the money is coming from Fisher's pocket. Okay? we know that,
I will see.
We know the Gap stock's worth $4.5 billion. That's what they own somewhere in that range, whatever it may be.
Great. Will you spend it?
They need, if let's say the stadium goes up to $2 billion, they got to come up with what are we looking at? 1.6 billion.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes up to 2 billion,
Mm-hmm.
they have that clearly. That is what's been disclosed with regard to Forbes and SEC
Cool.
filings. They have that
Cool.
money.
Will they spend it?
That's my point. My whole thing is the only way Vegas does not happen is if John Fisher doesn't want it to happen.
Or he doesn't squeeze more money out of it. And that's kind of the insurance that I feel that fans are not getting from that. And speaking of insurance,
This episode is brought to you in part by SelectQuote. In sports, having a winning strategy, Sully, is everything. It's how the best teams make it to the Super Bowl, the World Series, and yes, the Olympics. The same goes for life. Having a strategy like life insurance from SelectQuote can protect your financial legacy and keep your family's future secure. SelectQuote makes it easy to find the perfect life insurance policy. As one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, they have helped over 2 million customers find $700 billion in coverage since 1985. What sets SelectQuotes apart is their personal touch. Unlike other brokers that offer one-size-fits-all policies, Sully, their licensed agents tailor coverage to fit your unique needs. If you're in good health, you might even qualify for same-day coverage of up to $5 million. No medical exam required. And it's more affordable than you'd think. You can get up to $1 million in coverage for as little as $20 a month. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/locked-on. Go to selectquote.com/locked-on today to get started. That's selectquote.com/locked-on. SelectQuote. They shop, Sully, you save.
yep, and I should probably hit that button. It's the Sully and Booney show. Look, if you're trying to start a relationship with a new city and you're already coming in looking like the charlatan snake oils, that's the narrative about you, and you're trying to break that. Um, looking like you're not doing your homework and saying things like, well, they don't need to disclose everything from them. Um, it's not a good way to start. And seeing delay after delay, we're gonna, this is gonna be the first delay. This is gonna be the first delay.
But there hasn't been any
I will,
delays officially yet.
what?
There hasn't
I
been
will
a delay
bet the
officially.
last dollar I got, this is not the last delay.
I don't disagree with you. But the point being is we're talking about two separate things. We're talking about what is lawfully being allowed and what's morally you expect from Fisher. I don't know why people still expect something from Fisher. I don't know why people think that he's going to change. He's out for the dollar. He's out for greed. It is what it is. He's not looking to build a relationship with the people of Vegas. He's out there for corporate sponsorship. He's out there to make a dollar. He is out there because he does not have to worry about attendance.
Because we saw what he did with the A's in Oakland and the catastrophe what he did with the A's. Why anyone would want to do business with someone who clearly has no intention of putting a quality product on the field, has no intention of doing anything to honor the people who are shoveling literally hundreds of millions of dollars, which he doesn't need. He doesn't need the public money. And I know lawfully this and the other thing, fine. There's a lot of things lawfully. Lawfully, I could come up to a kid and call him an a-hole. But you know what? At some point, you're like, you don't need to do business with this dude. You already know who he is. And he has no intention of doing anything in terms of putting together a quality product in Las Vegas. The only reason he's signing players now is he's going to be in legal trouble if he doesn't. So I don't, the whole thing is like, yeah, we already know he's a lying scumbag. Then I don't understand why Las Vegas, I don't understand why Las Vegas is putting any public money in this, quite frankly. There's so many other things they could do with that land to make a hell of a lot more money than have 12,000 people there when the A's play the Rangers in August. I mean, there's no way they're not going to sell out games there. There's going to be a little bit of, curiosity effect. Kind of the Marlins drew not 3 million fans their first year. There's going to be a curiosity effect, but then, it'll go away. Now, I don't want that. This is not me saying, oh, I hate Fisher. I don't want that. I want the A's to be a huge success. I would love to eat my words. I would love to say, okay, if they build the state, I do think they're better off in Sacramento, but that's a different podcast altogether. If they build the Sydney Opera House thing in Vegas and they wind up moving there, and I turn out to be wrong, like I was wrong about Shohei Ohtani's interpreter, I will eat my words. I would love to see a great A's team, and if Fisher proves me wrong, I will have a all-you-can-eat word buffet, but I don't think I need to buy a bib for that.
You don't think the A's have put out a quality product on the field with the exception of the last 3 years?
I think they've done it in spite of John Fisher. I think they've done it in spite of him.
But
Oh, I'm sorry. No. Are you saying are we giving John Fisher credit for
absolutely not.
tearing apart?
I am not saying that. But what you're saying is they continually put out a bad product on the field. That's factually untrue.
They're putting out okay. All right, maybe
So
maybe I misspoke. Okay, maybe let me rephrase that. They put out a good product despite having no support from the organization.
fair enough. As
It's a
far as ownership,
testament to their front office, their scouting department, and the managers that they're able to do anything on the field when they're constantly fighting. They're dealing with the owner from the film Major League or Bialystock and Bloom from the producers as they were trying to put a bad product on the field to have nobody show up and say, "Oh, we have no support. We have no support."
that was since 2021. That wasn't before that. That wasn't before. The A's have never drawn fans. Let's be honest there. Okay, it's from
Yeah,
since
they drew
70.
fans in the late '80s, yes,
They
and
drew
then
fans
when
2 times.
and then but no, but let's be honest on another thing. They drew very well in the late '80s and '90s when they had the great team there. Look it up. They were one of the biggest
I
draws.
did. I've done this. Yeah,
Okay,
they were
then
number one time.
they were then they were bad for a bunch of years. Then they kowtowed to the Raiders, and they basically destroyed the stadium, planted an aircraft carrier in center field, and made the experience of going to the Oakland Stadium a miserable one, while at the same time, a beautiful palace was built right across the way in the Bay. So all the
Sully,
casual baseball fans all drifted towards the Giants. And
seven.
they never invested in the team, even
That's true
when
too.
they had terrific teams. They even made a Brad Pitt movie about it.
They have drawn.
I think it was called Benjamin Button.
They have drawn in the top 10 in all of Major League Baseball 7 times out of 56 years. Now, we could put that blame on a number of things. I have never said it was on the fans. There are a number of reasons why the A's have not drawn. A lot of it has to do with the socioeconomics of what's going on with Oakland. Oakland's struggling as a city, okay? There's a lot of things going on with regard to why the A's have not drawn. But it's not all on the owners either. Yes.
A lot of it is. Come on, buddy. A lot of them not investing in the stadium, not investing in the team, raising the ticket prices after trading away everyone.
That's
When
2000, that's
7,000
2021. I'm not
when
arguing with you since 2021. I'm not arguing one bit from 2021.
2021, what about they dismantled the team from 2014 when they had a great run from 2012 to 2014? They dismantled the team.
They did dismantle that team at that exact same time. You're absolutely right. But at the same
Yeah.
time, they won 3 years later. I mean, they keep on winning.
So that's a testament. They won it in spite of Fisher.
Right.
And they didn't upkeep the stadium. The stadium was filthy and falling apart. They didn't, and you say, hey, don't get used to these players. They're going to be gone in a second. Oh, why won't the 7,000 fans show up? That shows what great fans they were. It should have been 0.
Sully, the A's never have wanted to stay in Oakland. Number one. Number two, the city of Oakland has not done everything in their power to keep the A's.
I agree that they kowtowed to the Raiders. They wanted the Raiders, not the A's. That's why everything they did was in favor of the Raiders, a team that kept leaving them.
Correct. Absolutely. So I'm not disagreeing that the A's wanted out of town. They did 100%. But there's always two sides to it. Oakland didn't do everything they could either.
You
Vegas,
know what other team wanted out of town? The Giants. The Giants almost became the Toronto Giants. They almost became the Tampa Bay Giants. Then they got and it was a foregone conclusion that baseball couldn't survive in San Francisco. They printed out Tampa Bay Giants shirts, and ownership came in. There's a new stadium. They invested in the team. Now they're a crown jewel organization.
100%. I'm not disagreeing with you. And you know what? And if the Giants didn't hold the territorial rights, the A's would be in San Jose.
I agree with that.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? We agree on some things. I actually had other things I want to talk about, but this got too much fun. Booney, this is fun.
I
This is fun.
enjoyed it, Sully.
This
Thank
is
you, man.
absolutely this is one of the great things about baseball, because think about it, there's so many things in the world that people are angry and arguing about in this world. And
Yeah.
Booney and I could do this and still be friends afterwards.
Right.
And in
That's
the
you.
end, we're talking about things that are about fun and entertainment and not about life and death. And
Yeah.
that's why we need sports. Booney, where can they listen to your show?
Just visit at Locked On A's, and there will always be a link right there. It's going to be Monday through Friday. Post at 6 a.m. on YouTube is the main place where you can get it.
And you can find me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. The show's at Locked On MLB Pods on Twitter and Instagram. And but the best thing is to get a hold of me right here. And we got to do the trivia question. It's going to be A's related. Only 2 players in the Baseball Hall of Fame who were brought in as players to the Baseball Hall of Fame were former A's, played for the A's as a Hall of Fame player, but never played for the Philadelphia A's, never played for the Oakland A's, only played for the Kansas City A's. Now, granted, neither one are remembered. Their time in Kansas City was fleeting, but the only 2 members of the Baseball Hall of Fame who only played for the Kansas City A's, not the Philadelphia A's or the Oakland A's. Tell me one of them that's the trivia question for you. So, talking, yelling, getting excited, but having fun doing it with Booney, who, by the way, is doing a fantastic job as the host of Locked On A's. This has been a Locked On A's, Locked On MLB crossover. He's Booney. My name is Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me. What should they call me?
Sully.
Call me Sully.
It's the best name.
It's a unique nickname. I really put my back into that one. It's like catfish or oil can.